my dad, and occasionally he watches and he enjoys hearing what we're up to. So thank you, everybody, for being here today. Are there any we'll introduce our substitutes first and welcome Brooklyn Mosley for Representative Ruiz and Representative Hoffman for Representative Hubert, and we'll welcome our latecomer. Did you have a? Oh, okay. You confused me. Jason, is there anything we need? Anything we need? Okay. Our first order of business, we'll go ahead and take action on HB 233. Is there somebody who would like to move adoption on 2033? That is the bill we heard about MSLEC.
Madam Chair,
Go ahead.
I move that we adopt House Bill 2033.
Is there a second? Representative Schreiber. Is there discussion? Representative Stogsdill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This program is a good program that we discussed, and we probably should have it as a part of the recommended programs for the State Board of Education or Department of Education. But I'm going to oppose this because of the process. We passed legislation the last year that puts this kind of decision-making into the hands of the State Board and Department of Education. So I've seen this over my 9 years, time and time again, it seems like, in the legislature, where we've just been chipping away at the rights and responsibilities of the State Board of Education. And I think if this is a good program, I think they should probably include it, but this is not the way to get it included into the State Board's list of suggested programs to use. So that's why I'll be opposing it this year.
Thank you, Representative. Further discussion? Representative McNorton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So thank you for your comments from the previous representative. Personally, I think this is a good bill. It just gives us another an arrow in the quiver here to give the State Board, the Department of Education, a chance to use programs that are out there that are approved by national accredited systems. So I think it's a good way that we can help our students by offering more education programs for them.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, same sign. No. The ayes have it, and the motion is adopted. Is there anybody who would like to be recorded? Because I think I saw a hand. Representative Stogsdill, Miller, Featherston, Mosley, Wynn, anybody else? And you all knows correct. Okay, thank you very much. Move on to our next item of business, and I'm going to open the hearing on HB 2136. And we have a lot of people, and so we have about an hour and a half, and we have about an equal number of oral proponents and opponents. So what I'd like to do, but I know this group likes to ask questions, so what I'm going to do is give each oral proponent and opponent the same time. I'm going to give you each 2 minutes. Please don't feel like you need to stand here and read your testimony. If you want to highlight what's most important to you, that works just as well, and that leaves you a little bit more time for questions, but I'll leave that decision to the person that is testifying. And we will begin with proponent, and we'll begin with A.J. Cool on behalf of ACE Scholarships. Mr. Cool, please come on up.
Point of order, are we going to hear from the reviser?
I'm sorry, didn't see you, Representative Featherston.
Are we going to get a bill description from the reviser?
Yes, I went right into that. Thank you for the reminder and slowing
You
me
were
down.
so focused on making sure everybody.
I am, and so while we're on process, it was asked of me to kind of extend deadlines by people who are proponents and opponents, and in my heart, I have always wanted to make it easier on citizens, so I said yes. Having stayed here till 1 o'clock in the morning, and Michelle, our amazing committee assistant, staying until 7 o'clock at night so that we could process as much testimony as possible, I'm going to tell you guys, there's more of a chance of me going to the moon than me extending the deadline ever again. Totally, my heart was in the right place, but it is such a complicated process to get that all uploaded, and it's just not fair for Michelle for me to do that. And you guys all owe her a huge thank you for working so hard to get everybody's testimony up the last few days. It really wouldn't have happened if she had not been so dedicated. So originally I was open to extending it because the weekly agenda comes out on Wednesday, which only leaves you Thursday and Friday to get, you know, your 48 hours for a Monday bill starts to tick. And I kind of felt sympathetic for that. So what I'm going to do is if it's a Monday bill, I'm going to give you to the close of business that day. The rest of the time is going to go ahead and be 1:30 so that in fairness to Michelle, she can get that done. And I will also try to not schedule bills that will attract a lot of guests on Mondays, but our calendar is what it is, and I can't always make that happen. But I just want you guys to know what I'm thinking and what I'm trying to get done. So you should have the fiscal note. You can see that online, so I'll go right to Jason. I'm sorry, I thought you were the same question. Representative Miller, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to elaborate on that same question, I was not able to find any of the testimony in the S drive under the bill 2136. The folder is empty. That's it. Is there somewhere we could follow along or? Oh, sure.
Michelle, go ahead. And I thought we got that uploaded.
Thank you. I uploaded it to the website, and I didn't have time to move it to the S drive, but I will do that this afternoon. Okay, thank
But
you.
it should be visible on KLIS.
Yes, on the Kansas website.
So thank you. Thank you, Representative Miller. I appreciate that. Okay, Jason, this time for real.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members of the committee, House Bill 2136 amends the Tax Credit for Low-Income Student Scholarship Program Act. This is a program that's been in place for a number of years now to provide scholarship money to low-income students to attend other private schools, non-public schools. The money comes from contributions made by private citizens and businesses to scholarship granting organizations, and then those donors receive a tax credit against their income tax liability in the state of Kansas for a portion of the amount that is contributed for those scholarships. Just by way of background for our new members. The amendment would expand the eligibility criteria for students to participate in the program. Since its inception, there's been a definition of eligible student that limits those who are eligible to take advantage of this program. The amendments also increase the tax credit amount for contributions to a scholarship granting organization and the overall aggregate amount of tax credits that may be claimed within a single tax year. So under current law, eligible students can participate if they're entering grades kindergarten or they're eligible to be enrolled in kindergarten or any of the grades 1 through 8, and they have an annual family income that is less than or equal to 250% of the federal poverty level. So that's our low income standard for eligible students. Students who have already received a scholarship in a prior year are automatically eligible to continue in the program and continue receiving a scholarship as they age through the grade levels. House Bill 2136 would make amendments to that. You can see those on page 1 on to page 2 of the bill. It would maintain that low-income eligibility for students wishing to participate and receive a scholarship under the program. And the bill would then add the following categories of eligibility for students who do not necessarily satisfy that low-income requirement. And those students would be any student placed in foster care or kinship care at any time prior to graduating high school or turning 21. They would be eligible. Any student with a parent on active duty in the military or who had a parent who was killed while in the line of duty would be eligible. And any student with a parent who is an emergency medical service provider, a firefighter, or a law enforcement officer would also be eligible to participate in the program, and those positions are defined as under current state law. The next amendment was to increase the amount of tax credit for a contribution that could be claimed by the donor. The taxpayer making a contribution to a scholarship granting organization could claim 75% of their amount contributed as a tax credit currently. This would go up to 100% for all tax years beginning this tax year, January 1st of 2025. And then finally, there is an annual cap on the amount of tax credits that can be claimed in any one tax year. Currently, that is set at $10 million for a tax year. That is kept the same under 2136, but 2136 then provides for an automatic increase of that amount if the amounts claimed in one tax year exceed 75% of that tax year's annual amount. So for instance, in this tax year, if more than $7.5 million are claimed in tax credits, then that $10 million cap would go up by 25% for next tax year. So in tax year 26, the annual cap would be $12.5 million instead of just $10 million. And then again in 26, if the amounts claimed exceed 75% of that $12.5 million cap, it would go up again by another 25% of $12.5 million, up to a max cap out of $20 million in any one tax year. So it cannot exceed $20 million under the bill as it currently is written. These amendments are scheduled to go into effect if enacted on publication in the Kansas Register. For our new members, that is typically an earlier publication date than July 1st, which is the publication of the statute book. The Kansas Register publication is a weekly publication by the Secretary of State's office. They typically publish laws that are enacted and published in the Kansas Register anywhere from a week to 10 days after the bill is signed by the governor or allowed to become law by the governor. And so upon that publication date in the Kansas Register is when the bill becomes effective. And so you could look, if this passes the legislature, it would become effective later this spring upon publication in the Kansas Register and be in effect prior to the next school year, 25-26. With that, Madam Chair, I'd be happy to stand for any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for Jason? Featherston, Representative Featherston.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On page 3, lines 19 through 21, in each school year, not more than $8,000 in educational scholarships may be awarded, etc. Are parents turning in receipts for what they paid? Is it just an automatic $8,000?
My understanding is that the scholarship granting organizations communicate with the schools themselves to make these payments to the schools to cover the tuition. But I would defer to maybe some of our conferees as to the nuts and bolts of those transactions.
Thank you. Any other questions? Representative Stogsdill.
Jason, does this also apply to homeschools?
I do not believe it applies to homeschools. Let me look at that So the qualified school has to be accredited by the state board or a national or regional accrediting agency that is recognized by the state board for the purpose of satisfying the teaching performance assessment for professional licensure or is in working in good faith towards such accreditation. I don't know of any accredited homeschools at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, Jason, thank you very much. And we will go to Mr. A.J. Cool.
Madam Chair and members of the House K-12 Budget Committee, thank you for the opportunity to address you today. My name is A.J. Cool. I'm the president of ACE Scholarships Kansas and Missouri. Since 2016, ACE has been providing private school scholarships to low-income students in Kansas, transforming lives through educational freedom. We are dedicated to ensuring every child, regardless of financial circumstances, has access to quality education that best fits their needs. We believe families deserve the freedom to choose the school that works best for their children, whether at public, private, charter, or homeschool. This year, ACE has awarded 14,000 scholarships to students attending approximately 1,100 partner schools across 12 states, including 351 scholarships through the tax credit program here in Kansas, where we partner with 85 schools. ACE strongly supports HB 2136, which aims to expand student eligibility under the tax credit for low-income student scholarship program and increase the tax credit for contributions made to such program. Increasing the tax credit to 100% contributions will strengthen the ability to raise funds for the program while making Kansas more competitive with its neighboring state programs. This improvement will enable more Kansas donors to contribute to scholarships, helping additional students access quality education. The inclusion of the automatic escalator to allow the program to grow with demand as we approach the $10 million cap credit will also help with the natural scaling and an increased ability to get scholarships to more Kansas students statewide in the years to come. Our applications have tripled in the last 3 years. Finally, technical changes to when notifications of student eligibility are made to KSDE will speed up the application times, allow for smoother award processes, and help families and schools make informed enrollment decisions earlier than it's been possible in recent years. But beyond the numbers, this is about transforming lives. This program is a lifeline for Kansas students, families who need educational opportunities that would otherwise be out of reach. We respectfully thank the committee for your commitment to
Please stop.
supporting
Thank
students.
you. When I say time, I am trying to be fair to everybody. So just so the audience knows, I'm a stickler on the time. Do we have questions for Mr. Cool? Thank you so much. Appreciate you being here. Next, we have Mo Pa Macias and Norbert Hutu. Are they here?
Hello.
Oh, they're WebEx. I apologize.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair Estes, for allowing me to speak to you and your committee about the low-income tax credit scholarship. And you have my testimony before you. I hope you and all of the committee can take a few minutes to read that. I know time is short, but I would like to touch on a few of the highlights. This is my father, Norbert, right here. We came as refugees from Thailand back in 2007, and in 2013, my dad became a naturalized citizen, making my siblings and I automatic citizens as well. We came here seeking a better future for our family, and my parents wanted my siblings and I to have opportunities that they didn't have available to them. My sister and I, there's 5 of us. My sister and I, we went to public school, and my 3 youngest attended and is currently attending St. Dominic's School. Our youngest brother right now is currently on the tax credit scholarship, and that is tremendously helping our family out. And it would be great if you guys could consider approving this bill.
Thank you very much. Do we have questions for our conferee? Thank you so much for participating today. Our next conferee is Mr. Chuck Weber from the Kansas Catholic Conference.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Appreciate the opportunity. My name is Chuck Weber. I'm the Executive Director of the Kansas Catholic Conference. I represent the 4 Catholic bishops of Kansas in the area of public policy. The previous conferee just said really more than what I could ever say. This is a guy who came across the ocean to make a better life for himself and for his family. Some of his kids attended public schools, and now they're at St. Dominic's in Garden City. This is what we want for every Kansas child, whether they're Catholic, whatever the religion, if they have no religion, we want the best fit possible for our students in Kansas. And so that's what this bill would help us do. It's what the Low-Income Tax Credit Scholarship Program has been doing for almost 10 years now. And we just, rather than me pontificate any more about that, I hope you can listen to some of the other conferees here, but I would stand for questions, and I appreciate your support of this bill.
Thank you very much. Do we have questions for our conferee? Representative Featherston.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for your testimony, Mr. Weber. Is there anything that prevents the average Kansas citizen from employing their right to be charitable and donate to these schools and children on their own without a financial incentive?
They do already.
So that answer is no?
Right.
There's no impediment?
No, there's not.
Thank you.
And they already do.
Further questions? Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Weber.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
you being here today. Our next conferee is Dr. Lorenzo Rizzi.
He's not here.
Oh, okay.
But speaking for him is someone else, I think. Yeah. Come on up. Sorry. From the same office.
And ma'am, after you're done testifying, if you could please write down your name and title and who you're with and hand it to our committee assistant, that would be very helpful.
Might be on your list, Kirsten Wondra. Oh, okay. Do I need to sit down?
Oh, no, go ahead, Kristen. You are on my list.
Okay. Hi there, Madam Chair and committee members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Kirsten Wondra. I am the Associate Superintendent of the Archdiocese of Kansas City in Kansas. I'm also a mom of 4 children in K-12 education currently. I'm a Catholic school administrator, and prior to that, I was a public school teacher and administrator. I'm deeply invested in ensuring that every child in Kansas has access to the best possible education that they can. I've been doing this for 20 years, and House Bill 2136 is a crucial step toward expanding those educational opportunities and empowering families to make good choices that fit their kids' needs. You have my testimony, which speaks to one of the beautiful stories that this bill has been made possible. I also had another mom who was at my school when I was a building principal. Her husband had died early on, and she worked at a local church, didn't make much money, but desperately wanted a faith-based education for her daughter. And it's through the tax credit scholarships that was made possible for them, and her daughter is flourishing. These scholarships are really opportunity makers. As a school administrator, I see firsthand how access to these scholarships transforms lives. And as a parent, I really understand the profound importance of being able to choose a school that aligns with my values and the needs of my children. So I stand for questions. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any questions for our conferee? All right, thank you very much. Leo Estrada, Pineda.
Hi. Dear Chair, State Committee members, thank you. First off, for the service of the people of Kansas, thank you for listening to people like me for our views on this important matter. The tax credit scholarship enabled me to learn and grow in an environment that educates the whole person. Let me share this of how this affects me. I'm able to attend Bishop Ward High School in Kansas City, Kansas, thanks to the tax credit scholarship that I have received since my freshman year. My defining moment that still influences me every single day is when God came into my life, because even now, He is still working in my life every single day. Ever since I was younger, I have always known about God and how He can help me in so many ways, yet I didn't know as much as I do now. God has always helped me in my family, even when I didn't see it. There was times when my family didn't have much to afford the necessities, times when my family members were very ill, and I remember when I was younger, I was often sick, and when my grandma would pray for me and have hope and faith, I would get better. This just showed me how strong God is and what he can truly do for us. And this showed me the power of faith and hope and all the possibilities for what is to come in my life. The moment I truly opened my heart to God in my life, and so is when I started looking at everything differently, my surroundings and how I act towards people and myself, I figured out how I should be able and how I should live my life. This impacted me in such a positive way because I looked at every day and realized I had to work hard because I had been granted a chance to redeem myself. This made me more joyful and excited to get the day going, to go to school and talk to people, which made me want to help others and motivate them to keep working hard. I am a junior at Bishop Ward High School in Kansas City. Bishop Ward definitely helped me with this moment in my life, and they opened my eyes to more about what I can be in my life and how I can impact others. I go to school every day excited to learn and to talk to my teachers and myself and my friends because it's another chance to spread a smile and love and my love to everyone.
Leo, you've reached your time limit. Do we have any questions for Leo? Thank you. I know this is not easy to do. I think from where you stand, we can look intimidating, and I'm very proud of you. Our next conferee is Ms. Trina Delgado. WebEx, thank you.
Madam Chair, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for allowing me to speak to you and to your committee about the Low Income Tax Credit Scholarship Program. My name is Trina Delgado. I serve as Superintendent of Schools for the Catholic Diocese of Dodge City, so in Western Kansas. You have my written testimony before you. I hope that all members of the committee can take a few minutes to read that. I'd like to highlight a couple key areas. Our school district is geographically large and spotted with population areas. But what really makes us unique is the beautiful tapestry of culture and ethnic diversity. That is who and what we are. Although we have just under 800 students in our school system, our students speak a minimum of 12 distinct languages and dialects, with some families speaking 3 languages in a single household. Our families are Guatemalan, El Salvadorian, Karen, Burmese, Haitian, Laotian, Chinese, Chin, Filipino, to name a few. 44% of our school system is, 44% of our student population is Hispanic. Our families are committed to each other, invested in our communities, and filled with hope for their children's future. The number of economically disadvantaged students within our district is growing at a rapid pace. 36% of our students received free and reduced lunches last school year. Just under 40% received free and reduced lunches this school year. 2 schools in far western Kansas are as high as 48% and 64% economically disadvantaged students. Language, economic disparities, and cultural differences do not diminish hope for your children. What they do is sometimes limit opportunities. What a tremendous game changer the Tax Credit Scholarship Program has been for our students and their families. It levels the playing field and allows parents to choose
Ms.
a school.
Delgado, you've reached your time limit. Do we have any questions for Ms. Delgado? Thank you so much. I know it's an interruption to your day. We appreciate your participation.
Thank you.
Our next conferee is Father Rick Katroba. You can teach us how to say it.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Father Rick Katurba is fine, but don't worry about that. My name is Father Rick Katurba. I'm the pastor at St. Cecilia's Catholic Parish in Hayesville, Kansas, just south of Wichita, Kansas. We have a small school, a pre-K through 8th grade, with a population just over 100 students. Well, I want to speak on behalf of the experience I've had in the community I served. The testimony, I included a story of one of our students and his mom. I also just want to say a great thank you on behalf of the Diocese of Wichita and our Catholic schools, as this has assisted so many of our families with financial need. At St. Cecilia's, to be specific, the funds we've received from scholarships for our children have helped us retain a special position, a reading specialist. She runs a program I forget the name of it. It's Take Flight is the name of it, for children who are behind in reading. And it's the children who use it are disproportionately represented by children coming from low-income families. The scholarships have also assisted our teachers with technology in their classrooms, providing better quality computers so our children are not consistently delayed on their work with older and faulty computers. The scholarships have made possible conversations between parents from the greater community in Hayesville and myself about the possibility of a Catholic education for their child, even though they don't have the financial means to afford tuition. And finally, these scholarships we received have assisted my community to better pay our teachers who work so hard and remain still very well underpaid for what they do and are woefully under the support from the teachers from our surrounding schools. Again, I want to repeat my gratitude for the support we have been able to receive since this program began, I believe, in 2015. And at this time, I want to encourage the possibility to grow the amount of the tax credit available through this bill, because the numbers of the children eligible in my community and throughout all of Kansas is only going to increase over the next 5 and 6 years. My hope would be that the scholarships would also increase along with them. Last year alone, I saw in the audit that was just released 2 days ago, the number of 2023 represented were 1,162 children throughout the state of Kansas who received scholarship, while last year, in 2024, the audit showed 2,360 students. In 1 year, the growth was that large. Over the next 6 years at my parish, with our community, we expect to at least double the amount of students qualifying for these tax credit-funded scholarships without even growing the school. That's just the population that's there.
Father, you're out of time.
That's great.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for Father Rick? Representative Featherston.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Father, for being here. I'm looking at the catechism at this time for the definition of charity. Could you expound on the definition of charity?
Not much more than what the catechism would say. It's a free gift given for no other purposes.
Okay, so a free gift.
Probably more there, I apologize.
Okay, so a free gift given for no other purposes. So one would not need financial reward for giving a gift to be exhibiting charity to one's fellow humans.
That's very true. You don't need a financial gift, but I don't think that's what's going on here with this bill.
And the catechism further says charity is the greatest of all virtues.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions for Father Rick? I hope that's okay that I say it that
Perfectly
way.
fine. Perfectly
Okay, because I recognize my limitations. Any more questions? All right, thank you very much. Appreciate you taking the time to be here today. Conferee is Dr. Delia Shropshire.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and the committee, and thank you for allowing me to speak to you on behalf of HB 2136. I'm Dr. Delia Shropshire, President of Holy Savior Catholic Academy in Wichita, Kansas, and I am honored to be able to share with you what this means to our school. First and foremost, the impact is tremendous. We are 80% of the faith tradition at our Catholic school, very unique Catholic school. We are 86% free and reduced. A lot of our children qualify for this scholarship. We are 78.6 African American, African 14, and 14% Latino, Caucasian, Asian, multi-ethnic. Our children graduate and go on to Cape and Mount Carmel, East IB, Northeast Magnet. We use a 1.3 growth model, so we test each child and get their baseline, and we help them to grow 1.3 years no matter where they are. So we accelerate and remediate. One of the important things that we've studied is the Adverse Childhood Experience Study, which shows that children who live in poverty experience more stress and trauma than children who do not. So this stress impacts the brain and brain development, and the brain cannot recover until certain social and emotional needs are met. And so this helps family get the opportunity to go to a school where those children can have the needs met. Children at risk of trauma, under stress, they will not be able to learn until those conditions are met, and they're in an environment where they feel safe and feel accepted. So school choice is necessary for families to match a learning environment with their child's needs so they can be successful. And then I'll close with a particular story about a student who came to us in kindergarten. And very difficult child having a hard time, was behind, emotional challenges, and in a normal environment may have been tested for special needs or some other issues. And we wrapped around that student and provided resources for that student. And that student is now in his 6th grade. His father recently died. But he
Shropshire,
is
you're
doing
out of
well.
time.
Thank you.
Thank you for being with us today.
and
Do we have questions for Dr. Shropshire? Seeing none, thank you so much for being with us today. Our next conferee is Naomi Vertelis.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Madam Chair and committee. My name is Naomi Vertilis. I am a parent of a child that currently attends Holy Savior Academy School in Wichita, Kansas. She is 10 years old, and I certainly have benefited from the scholarship that was available at the time when I enrolled her, and that wouldn't have been possible if this scholarship was not available to me and my daughter. I have 3 other children that attended public schools, and I certainly see the difference between the education that she's currently getting versus the challenges I had to deal with the other schools. And I believe that every children deserve an opportunity to thrive and to grow. In the right environment, with the right support, they all can reach their potential. And I'm here to support the bill for HB 2136, and I hope that you all can support this bill as well, because there are many more children in our community that benefit from services. It's not just the education, but just having the right people in the right places for these kids to show support when parents have to work full-time, couple of jobs to make ends meet on a daily basis, and they're not able to provide those services at home for the kids. And I can certainly see the benefit when my kids have after-school programs and that the teachers and principals supports them. So I truly appreciate you all for supporting this bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And do we have questions for our conferee? Seeing none, thank you so much for being here today. I appreciate you taking.
Again, it's Naomi Vertilis. Thank you.
All right, our next conferee Vincent, and I'm so sorry, I'm going to pronounce it wrong. I knew it. And I believe my very resourceful Boy Scout of a vice chair has created a warning sign for you conferees.
Oh, okay. Are you already putting it up? Thank you, Madam Chair and committee members. Thank you for your time today, and thank you for your service. My name is Vincent Anch. I'm the Executive Director for the Catholic Education Foundation based in Kansas City, Kansas, working with the Archdiocese there. We have 22 counties that we serve and 42 schools in Northeast Kansas. I'm here today in support of this bill. It has been a game changer for hundreds of children that we have served by helping us reach our goal of breaking the cycle of poverty for families. 100% of the scholars that we serve every year qualify for a federal free and reduced lunch program. And of that, 93% of our students are ethnic minorities. And like the previous speaker from Wichita, over 17 languages are spoken among those tax credit students. This program is in desperate need of being grown and increased because we know we're going to exceed or hit that 10 million mark this year. We hit 8.3 this past year, and with the 2 extra SGOs in the state and growth from some of the SGOs, we're projected to do much more than that. And so once we hit that, we're frozen and can no longer help families in need, all of which are low income. We also want to lobby for the fact that if you'll help consider a 100% tax credit. We say that because Missouri has 100% tax credits, and for all of our schools, we have a lot of Missourians who work in Kansas or Kansans who work in Missouri. They pay taxes in both states, and we've lost a number of donors to the Missouri program because they offer 100% tax credits versus the 75. Currently, the state of Kansas says that it costs over $18,000 to educate one child for 1 year in a public school, and all of our SGOs combined are serving 2,360 kids, which ultimately is saving taxpayers $43 million with this program, and that can grow if you'll consider growing the program and letting us do the best we can to break the cycle of poverty. And we want to keep Kansans' donations in Kansas and support our schools and not other states. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have questions for our conferee? Representative Featherston.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for your testimony. As a resident of the Archdiocese of Kansas City and Kansas, it's my understanding that there are a number of extremely wealthy donors to your fund. Where can we find a list of these donors?
We don't give out the names of the donors. I'd have to check with the state if we protect the names of donors. I don't know that. We do have some wealthy donors. I will tell you that out of our 51 donors that we have only 5 that are businesses, and we have about a third of our donors are non-Catholic, but they like the program, and it means a lot to them to serve the urban core. I'll get back with you on the question of who. I just don't know if we're allowed to share that.
Thank you.
Thank you. I was just conferring with Jason to see if that information was somewhere, and I don't believe that it is. Representative Stogsdill.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for being here for your testimony today. I only had one question, and that was about the cost. You said that public school education cost per student, and did you say it was $18,000?
It's over $18,000, according to KSDE, this past school year.
That sounds a little high, but we'll check on that.
Yeah, that came right from their website, and when you multiply that by 2,360, we're saving a lot of tax dollars, and we could save even more.
Representative Nguyen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And over here.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hi.
Okay. Could you give me an example, a specific example of how this program, you said, breaks the cycle of poverty?
Sure. 100% of our tax credit scholarship recipients since the beginning of this program have graduated either from high school or matriculated up to a higher grade, and over 90% have gone to college, and another 5 to 6% have gone to technical schools. And that's much higher than any peer public school near any one of our Catholic schools that participates with this. And the schools that we're funding right now, most of them are over 50% free and reduced lunch, and a third of them are at over 90% free and reduced lunch. So they graduate with a high quality education and training, and most of them go on to college. And that's just, it's a success rate that no one can compete with.
Representative Mosley.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairwoman. $8,000 is very efficient. Which $18,000 may be an aggregated number. My question for you is, how do you all handle kids with special needs and kids who might actually need additional like resources like paras and stuff like that?
I can answer part of that, but I may have to call on our assistant superintendent. The IEPs, and we do handle the disabilities and the special learning plans, but every public school district is given extra dollars to help support every school in their territory, whether they're public or private. So we have partnerships with every school district where any of our Catholic schools are for things that if we can't handle it, the feds give us the money through the schools to help take care of that. Is that?
And have you ever turned away a student because of their needs?
Not that I know of, no. No, you'll hear testimony from someone who has a blind child who's at one of our schools, and several in wheelchairs and speech impediments, and a high rate of over 40% that have some kind of learning disability, and that number might even be higher. You may know that more than I. And we don't turn away a child who isn't Catholic.
Representative Nguyen. No, you went, I'm sorry. Any further questions? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time to be here today. Our next conferee is Jamie Finkeldye. I hope I got that one right. I don't, yay.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. I'm Jamie Finkeldye. I'm the Associate Superintendent for the Diocese of Wichita. We're the 9th largest school district in the state of Kansas with almost 9,000 students. Almost 2,400 of those, or 27%, are on free and reduced lunch. In the last 9 years of this program, we've gone from 15 kids on scholarship to this last year, just over 1,000 kids on scholarship. And we anticipate having 1,300 kids next year. And as the previous speaker said, if we're going to continue to grow, steady growth of this program, we need an increase of the $10 million cap. It's been slow and steady growth across the state. We're just asking to be able to continue that growth. We believe that support for Catholic schools in the Diocese of Wichita, we've demonstrated successful utilization of this program to successfully serve low-income students. You've heard a lot of testimony about how our schools have served kids and made a difference in their lives. And so we're simply asking for the ability to continue to serve this growing population. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have questions for our conferee? Representative Featherston.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your testimony. I know in Johnson County, we've had children turned away from Catholic schools because of their family situation. Do you have a policy in Wichita that prevents that from happening?
For their family situation, no.
Thank you.
Additional questions for our conferee? Seeing none, thank you very much for taking the time to be here today. From my records, our final proponent oral conferee is Mr. James Franco.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, thank you very much for the opportunity to present testimony today. As with everybody else, you have my written remarks before you, and I just want to say there's no silver bullet when it comes to educating our kids, not in public school, not in private school, not in homeschool, or any other kind of educational environment. And every single person in this room wakes up in one way or another every day and cares about the academic opportunity and the academic success of kids in this state, regardless of how they are educated. So the testimony we've already heard, the testimony we will hear from opponents of the bill, we all share that same goal. The question is about how to do it. And the bill before you today continues, as we've heard, to expand this program to help more individual children. Overall achievement, as this committee well knows, as the legislature well knows, is not what anybody would like. And frankly, some of the achievement gaps between between low-income children and their higher-income peers is just simply unacceptable. So the question is, what are we going to do to help solve that or to help address it? And this bill helps us help more individual children. Because the simple truth that is just completely unavoidable is that we have school choice in Kansas for the families that can afford it. You can move to a different district if you think that's the right fit. You can go into your own pocket to go to a private school or homeschool or whatever it is. But we have school choice in Kansas for the families that can afford it. This bill and others like it try to remedy that by putting more resources in the hands of families so that they can ultimately make decisions on behalf of their children. Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'll stand for questions.
Representative Stogsdill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Franco, we've heard from all the rest of the conferees today who they represent. Do you represent the Catholic Church, or what group do you represent?
Forgive me, I did not introduce myself. James Franco, I am the president of the Kansas Policy Institute. Forgive me.
Additional questions? Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Franco, for being here. You may be seated. Is there anybody that is proponent oral that I accidentally missed? I apologize. Please come up, ma'am, and tell us your name.
Madam Chairman and committee, my name is Angela Swisher. Thank you for having me. I represent Most Pure Heart of Mary Catholic School. Most Pure Heart of Mary Catholic School as a parent out of the Archdiocese of Kansas City in Kansas. I've worked in public school system for the majority of my career. serving in multiple capacities. I've been able to see firsthand what I would like for my own children. Having been given the opportunity to attend Most Pure Heart of Mary Catholic School with the tax credit scholarship, it amazes me how much my children flourish in that setting. For my children, it has made such a big difference being able to celebrate your faith alongside with receiving your education. We have been blessed with phenomenal staff alongside our administration. The tax credit scholarship program was vital in giving my children the opportunity to attend Catholic school. I look forward to all the possibilities that their future holds through their education. I ask at this time that you continue to make this opportunity possible by supporting HB 2136. Thank you. And this is my son, and he attends Most Pure Heart of Mary School. This is his last year.
Could you please tell us your son's name?
Santiago Sanders.
Okay, welcome, Santiago. Getting to a great civics lesson today.
Yes, very much so. He was excused.
Go home and write a paper and get some extra credit.
Right?
All right, thank you for being here. Do we have questions for our conferee? Seeing none, thank you. You may be seated. I appreciate you being here today. According to my records, I have no neutral testimony, and I don't see anyone waving me down that I missed them, so we will move on to opponent testimony. I'm going to begin with Representative Poskins.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I did bring my testimony. Since it's not on the S drive, may I distribute to the committee members?
You may, but just for your peace of mind, all testimonies should be on K-List if K-List behaved. It will be on S drive as soon as possible.
Well, thank you so much, Madam Chair and committee. I'm Mary Lynn Poskin, Kansas House District 20. I stand in strong opposition to House Bill 2136, further draining state general funds and funneling them to private, mostly religious schools. With the changes proposed in this bill, it can no longer even be pretended that it's just to help low-income students. 4 new categories of eligibility are opened up with no income limits. Let's take a look at what that could really do. An Army colonel in Fort Leavenworth can bring home over $9,000 a month in basic pay, be married to a physician, and still qualify for $8,000 per year per child. Now, in my district, a fire captain can make over $175,000 a year, be married to a CEO, and he or she can have access to the top public schools, enroll their children in eligible private schools, and bankroll $8,000 a year for a dozen years, netting $96,000 per child. Now, let's talk about another big change in this bill, the insanity of raising the tax credit to 100%. Tax credits are generally issued to promote specific behavior deemed important to the state. There is no other 100% tax credit for charitable giving for regular Kansas people. Are we saying in House Bill 2136 as a legislature that there is nothing more important for the state to promote than sending children to private school? Not March of Dimes, not the MS Society, which might be able to get my husband out of his wheelchair. Please understand that the current list of 127 eligible schools, only 3 are not religiously affiliated. So under House Bill 2136, every congregation with an eligible school, listen to this, could sweep every last dime of its congregation's Kansas tax liability from state general funds to their religious schools through the scholarship organizations. I have to say it again, like I did in 2023, holy tax scams, what a shell game. Since its inception in 2014, the long game has always been expanding this vehicle to become a universal voucher.
You are out of time. Thank you very much. Do we have questions
Madam Chair.
for our
questions.
conferee? Seeing none?
Thank you.
Our next conferee is Rabbi Moti Reber.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members of the committee, I'm Rabbi Moti Reber. I'm the Executive Director of Kansas Interfaith Action. We're a statewide multi-faith issue advocacy organization that works on a variety of justice issues in Kansas. We have partnerships with many of the mainline denominations in Kansas. I'm just going to read a line. This is from the United Methodist Church Board of Church and Society, and this is pretty indicative of the position of most of the mainline denominations and the Jewish and Muslim individuals who make up our organization. Although we recognize that citizens have a right to establish and maintain private schools, we do not support the expansion or strengthening of private schools with public funds. We specifically oppose tuition tax credits, school vouchers, and any other mechanism that directly or indirectly allows government funds to support religious schools at the primary or secondary level. Public school is a cornerstone of democracy, bringing together children of all backgrounds. Using tax write-offs for private schools undermines the commitment of the state to public education, and it basically is tax avoidance for wealthy donors. As someone who's long fought against the welfare reform framing that puts onerous conditions on public assistance, I note that this is an entitlement mostly for wealthy taxpayers who get 100% tax benefit, as the previous conferee mentioned. The state has no compelling reason to take public money out of public schools and put it into private or religious education. In fact, the opposite. Our schools are the lifeblood of our community and the people of our state, and we should support and not undermine them with cash grabs like this. Please vote no on HB 2136. Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi. Do we have questions for our conferee? Representative Getz?
Have a clarification, maybe for him or for Jason. But there were some big numbers thrown around on the last one. But as I remember, there's a $20 million cap that's so it has to stop there. It can't be all the tax dollars. Am I understanding that correctly? That there's a
$20 million cap.
$20 million cap.
Bill, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any more, Representative Hill?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for your testimony. As you were going through your testimony, you made the insinuation that this bill would save wealthy taxpayers significant amount of money, and I'm curious how that would happen.
Well, it's 100% tax write-off. So if the donor gives money to the scholarship fund, then they get 100% write-off. So people with wealth are the ones who donate to scholarship funds primarily.
So if a taxpayer that has a $100,000 tax liability pays $100,000 to a school instead of to the state of Kansas, does he have more money in his pocket? I'm trying to figure out how that helps him out.
What I'm saying is it takes away money from the state general fund that goes to support public schools.
Okay, that wasn't what you said. You said it gave the taxpayer a break.
Well, he doesn't pay taxes.
But he does pay.
He pays for tuition, but he doesn't pay for taxes.
No, he doesn't pay for tuition. He pays
for a scholarship.
Donation. Yes,
Right.
Thank you.
Representative Featherston.
I'm sorry, Chair Estes, we were going pretty fast. The last person, we said there was a cap at $10 million, but my notes, did I get this right? There is an automatic trigger to increase that each year by 25% if 75% of the goal is claimed.
Did I interpret your question as going to Jason for an official answer?
Yeah, sorry.
Is that preferred? Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, that is correct.
Is there any cap on that? How many times that trigger can happen?
Yes, there is a finite cap of $20 million in any one tax year.
Representative McNorton, is this for our conferee? Very quickly.
So, Jason, do you know, let's say that the contributions were 25 million. Is that just who gets in there first gets a 20 million? How would that work, or do you know?
My understanding is that the tax credits are claimed as they are filed with the Department of Revenue. And so once the full annual amount of tax credits that can be claimed in any one tax year is reached, then revenue would not allow tax credits for any subsequent filers.
You're welcome. Questions for our conferee? All right. Sensing confusion in the room, I'll let us finish, make you the last one on understanding, because I think we all need to understand. Go ahead, Representative Schreiber.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jason, in the bill, it talks about that each taxpayer has a $500,000 cap. Is that if someone files taxes jointly, does it apply to each, the husband and the wife, or is that one single taxpayer? I'm not an accountant, so I apologize.
That's it. Madam Chair, members of the committee, the $500,000 cap per taxpayer would be the tax filer who is claiming the tax credit. And so if it is a husband and wife filing jointly, it would be $500,000 for their joint tax filing for their household, for example.
Thank you. So now do we have questions for Rabbi? I think okay. Thank you so much, Rabbi. I appreciate you taking the time to be with us today. This one, I wasn't sure if it was written only. Are Kathy Hopkins and Danny Zek here? Because I don't think I see them. Written only. Thank you. We will go now to the Kansas PTA on WebEx.
Madam Chair, thank you for the
And that is,
opportunity. Can I go ahead?
You may go ahead, Mary. I was just about to say, welcome, Mary Sinclair.
Thank you. I am speaking today on behalf of Kansas PTA in opposition and to share our concerns about the use of public funds for private schools. There are a number of issues for which we have concerns about this bill, but I'll focus on just a handful. The first and kind of primary point I want to make today is that there really is no need for expansion. School choice is not parent choice, as evidenced by eligibility under the Kansas Tax Credit Scholarship Program has not equaled access. This program continues to leave millions in scholarship funds unallocated and no vouchers offered to over 235,000 students eligible for the free and reduced lunch program alone. Ever since the program was enacted in 2014, private schools have left up to $6 million in scholarships on the table. This equates to about 625 unfilled slots annually. When eligibility was expanded last year beyond those kids who in the public schools who are eligible for free and reduced lunch, the program doubled. To me, there is no requirement on reporting of who the students are getting vouchers, the outcomes or the impacts for these students. So just with this simple kind of doubling of enrollment when the limit exceeded the 185% level of poverty, it seems that the tax credit scholarship, the private schools have been allowed to skip over those kids who really demonstrate risk in terms of struggling with academic performance, behavioral performance, to skip over those students with more severe and learning behavior challenges. One of the pieces that I've heard today was talking about costs, and I think those cost savings comparisons have been a little bit faulty in that comparing apples to oranges. If we look at the cost of serving special ed students with disabilities alone, the average cost for those special ed services is between $12,000 and $19,000 a year per student. $8,000 is not going to cover that cost.
Thank you. You are out of time. Do we have questions for our conferee? Seeing none, we will move on. Mary, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. I do appreciate that.
Thank you,
You're very welcome. Our next conferee is Judith Deedy from Game On for Kansas Schools. Judith, go ahead. And while she's getting hooked up, Judith was a great phone a friend last night to help me sort testimony, and I appreciate that.
Happy to help. Chair Estes, members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to testify in opposition to HB 2136 on behalf of Game On for Kansas Schools. Our first point is 100% tax credits are tax avoidance, not charity. Calling something a scholarship allows donors to allow an aura of philanthropy, but donating money that is given back as a 100% tax credit is merely tax avoidance. The donors get their donation back in the credit, and the rest of us are now the non-consenting funders of this program. As an organization that represents parents of Kansas public school children and community members who support public education, we object to this. We believe the income cap should remain in effect and not eliminated for some categories of families. Eliminating the eligibility requirement that students shall have been previously enrolled in public school and the provision to double the aggregate credit limit will result in expansion of this problematic program. As Mary mentioned, there are over 200,000 Kansas students already eligible for this program, and there's no need to extend it to students who are from higher income levels. When we don't require students to already be in public school, we change this program to favor families who can already afford private education, or we subsidize the scholarships schools are already able to provide. With a 100% tax credit, it can no longer be argued that these are not public tax dollars, yet there are no provisions in this bill to impose limits on private school admission and retention policies, or to allow public oversight of financial records or academic programs. Many of the schools participating in the tax credit scholarship program have exclusive admission standards that are inconsistent with receiving money funded by a 100% tax credit. As supporters of our public schools and the vast majority of Kansas children who are educated them, we are well aware of the broader effort to expand voucher programs and have been closely watching the states where the voucher experiment has been underway for years, seeing how vouchers defund public schools, devastate student learning, and discriminate against vulnerable students. We cannot support any expansion of vouchers in our state. Thank you.
25 seconds to spare, Judy. You may win the title for fastest today. Do we have any questions for our conferee? Seeing none, Judy, thank you very much for being here today. And again, thank you for the help last night clarifying some of those things. I appreciate it. We will, you're welcome. We will move on to Ann Ma.
Chair, this year I'm here representing all the grandmas passionate about public education. And I'm here today to oppose this bill, first because people of Kansas don't want it. Do I have a survey to show that? Nope, but I can tell you that vouchers, when put to a vote of the people, have never passed in any state in this country. Most recently, Colorado, Nebraska, and Kentucky rejected them. Nebraska quit their program. If you think this is what your constituents want, then let's put it on the ballot and find out. Secondly, you have absolutely no evidence this program works, none. The original intent was to allow low-income students struggling in public schools to go to private schools and obtain academic achievement. So where's the beef? Where are the numbers to show that it works? That our Kansas tax scholarship students actually do academically better in private schools? It's almost like you don't want to know. But what we do know is that public schools that are demographically similar to private schools perform absolutely just as well as private schools. What we also know is under this program, a student can leave a nationally recognized high-performing public school to go to a lower-performing private school, and that should never happen. And we can stop pretending this was about poor kids. It's really about the money. A $500,000 tax credit. You know, there are more than 200,000, probably 300,000 kids that would qualify for this program. Only 2,360 of them were in. So that means even that either poor kids can't afford this program, private schools don't want them, or parents don't want private schools. And the savings aren't there either, but I only have 2 minutes, so we can't go into that. Education is a team sport, and we all do better when we all do better. Pitting private and public schools against each other is a losing game. Public schools take kids, whether they're broken, beaten, unloved, unfed, or unwanted, and we make them the best we can be. Your job is to provide an adequate and equitable education to all kids, not just some kids. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome, and you beat the timer. Do we have questions for our conferee?
Sign was helpful.
Representative Steele.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Could you help me understand what it means to help someone in need?
From what aspect of need are you talking?
There
are many aspects of need.
In education, what does that mean?
Well, in our public school funding formula, we actually do try to take care of a variety of needs.
I'm not talking about funding.
That's what I'm getting
public
to.
Schools.
Yeah, we have kids who are ESL, you know, we have kids who are special ed, we have kids who have emotional disturbing problems. Those kids are all in need. I think if you look at the at-risk list, there's what, 12 or 13 different categories. From a public education standpoint, that's how I define need.
Are you aware of the recent study that came out from voters in 2024 that 68% of Kansas voters want school choice?
Well,
the data is there, ma'am.
Well, I'd have to see who did the study and how they did it.
Madam Chair.
You know, studies oftentimes reflect the person who asked the question.
Thank you. We've had a wonderful tone, and we want to keep that moving forward. Any more questions for our conferee? Thank you. Our next conferee is Jim Carlskent.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and committee, and thank you for allowing me the opportunity to present testimony on HB 2136. I represent the United School Administrators of Kansas. The USA Kansas does not oppose private schools. We feel like the private schools are a part of our state. However, we do oppose public funds to fund private and parochial schools. You know, one of the things that we've talked about, talked about this afternoon is school choice. One thing that I think we need to identify, it's not school choice, it's schools choice. The schools get to choose who they admit. Now, granted, I know there's a lot of these schools that we're talking about today admit students, low income, problems, different things like that. But also, having been, you know, I was a former school administrator in a parochial school as well as public schools. And I know there is discrimination when it comes to kids with special needs, not because we don't like kids with special needs, if you can't help them. There's kids with, you know, behavior problems. If they're not going to abide by the rules, they don't stay in the parochial schools. They go to the public schools. Having been a public school administrator, I've dealt with those kids. You know, we have some challenges, both in parochial as well as private. But I don't think this bill should be moved forward because it's a tax write-off for the wealthy. You know, I don't see how you can look at it any other way. That is my opinion, and I think the opinion of those, I've got 30 seconds, of those that I work with feel very similar. You know, as I said, we do not oppose private schools. The scholarship program started out to help the lowest income kids. Representative Wynn, Representative Hoffman, and I were on the K-12 Education Budget Committee when this thing was expanded to allow the lowest 100 kids to receive it in the state. Look where it's gone since 2016 and 2017. My time is finished.
Thank you for being here. Do we have questions for our conferee?
Thank you.
Jim, I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much. Our final conferee that I am aware of is Shannon Kimball, and when she's done, if I've missed you, I'll give you a chance to speak up.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Shannon Kimball with the Kansas Association of School Boards. I'm here today to share our association's opposition to House Bill 2136. This school voucher tax credit expansion gives tax breaks to largely wealthy donors to the detriment of the public funds that are available to support the 92% of our students in Kansas who attend public schools along with their families. It preferences charitable giving to these programs over all other charitable giving. Schools Foundation donations don't get 100% tax credit, for example. But rather than rehash my written testimony, I want to share with you what your investment in public schools is already doing by telling you a little story about something I did last night. My daughter is a choir student in Lawrence Public Schools. We had our all-city choir event last night at the Lead Center. And there were 6 choirs from our 6 secondary schools with their faculty members putting on an amazing show. One of our high school choir directors is retiring at the end of the school year. And as part of the program, they had 4 of his students get up and speak in front of the mostly full Lead Center crowd about the impact that this educator has had on their lives. And I wish I had a video of those student comments to share with you, because they said, these high school seniors said things like, "This man has changed my life." They spoke of his skill as a clinician and as a teacher. But most importantly, they spoke about how he has inspired them to be better students in all the things they do, better problem solvers, creative thinkers, and all around better people. These are the experiences that students have each and every day in our public schools across Kansas, and these are the very experiences that are put at risk for the 92% of our kids who attend these schools, when year after year we make decisions in the legislature to chip away at the funding that is available to support those kinds of programs. I ask you to come together with us and fully support our Kansas public schools. First and foremost, it's our constitutional duty to do so. And I hope that by sharing this story with you today, you will see the profound impact that doing so will have for all Kansas kids. Thank you. I respectfully ask you to reject House Bill 2136.
Shannon, thank you very much. And Shannon was another phone a friend, and as well was Mr. Weber and Lucretia Nold. So I want to thank all of y'all for helping to keep the building running smoothly. Representative Schmo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I did notice that when the number 18,000 per student was thrown out, I noticed that you had a reaction. What is the number that it cost per student?
Well, we know that base state aid per pupil is around, I think this year, $5,100. And then you have to add on to that the weightings. When you talk about a number like 18,000, that's when you're getting into counting capers and capital bond and interest and things like that. So it is not apples to oranges to say that you can provide the educational services, the teacher in the classroom, for $8,000 a year, but a public school is spending $18,000. That's not comparable, and that's not accurate.
Okay, because I do have, I mean, just simple Google here, so it may or may not be accurate. The Kansas Department of Education said the average spending per student was $17,650. And so if we're capping their scholarship at $8,000 per kid, we're saving Kansas taxpayers $9,650 roughly.
I don't think that that's actually how the math would work out, because just because you have one student leave a school district, your fixed costs don't change. So you're actually, in most cases, not saving anything in terms of what it costs to provide an education for all the rest of the students that are in that classroom.
So having that kid not there, the school still gets the same amount?
They don't get this base state aid, but they still have to provide all the same services to everybody else for less money, and that's the problem.
Interesting information. Thank you all both. Representative Schreiber.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Shannon. My question's related to SPED services.
Yes.
I've heard this. I don't know if you can correct me if I'm wrong, but private schools aren't required to provide their own SPED services.
No, they are
not. I would
not.
say most of the time. I need clarification, but that they would contract or go to the public schools to provide those SPED services?
That is correct.
Is that right?
Yes. IDEA rights don't transfer with a family to a private school setting. Some private schools do provide some services, and that is up to the school, but they are not required to provide the full range of services that public schools are required to provide through the IEP process. And public schools are required to provide those services to any student that is within their boundaries, and that includes students at private schools.
If a parent, as part of the IEP group, would demand certain special ed services that aren't provided by the private school, then they would have to go to the public school or maybe a private individual to provide those services?
So obviously our school districts work in partnership with our private school providers in our communities to support students. There are times when those services can be provided by the public school district in the private school, and that happens. I think there are times as well when the services are so intense, the needs are so intense that parents transfer their children to the public school to get the full range of services because they can't all be provided in the private school. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. Thank you for the clarification. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Any Representative Hill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Shannon, for your testimony, and I appreciate your fervor for supporting the public schools that you represent. In your testimony, though, you made a comment that I guess it bothered me just a bit in that you said that we're chipping away at the financial foundation of public schools. And, you know, I serve on the K-12 Budget Committee. And I think the number this year is going to be right around $300 million that we've added into base and supplemental and all the different state aids. And I guess I'm trying to figure out, since the inception of this program in 2014, do you have any idea what number you're talking about that we've chipped away at public schools, how we've damaged public schools?
It's my understanding that the latest report on the scholarship program showed that it had cost about $50 million in tax credits over the life of the program. So, you know, I appreciate that you raised the budget conversation about K-12 schools. You know, I watched that budget committee, and I watched the K-12 budget be held to a very, very high standard, and a lot of things that members around this table voted to support to provide for our public school students in the coming year were taken away with the rationale that the state doesn't have the money to provide those things. I would contend that a tax credit is a kind of expenditure from the general fund. Taxes that would otherwise be paid and due are not due because of the tax credit, and that chips away at the amount of revenue that is brought into the state to pay for all the service, K-12 and all the other services that are provided. So every time we make a tax credit decision, for example, that reduces the amount of state general fund that is available to support the needs that exist.
So you are opposed to all tax credits across the state, like agriculture producers get a tax credit on used machinery?
I would suggest that in the realm of education, that we need to be thinking very carefully about what the tax credits are that we choose to provide. And so the example I provided, we don't provide a 100% tax credit for donors who want to give to their local public schools or to the schools foundations that support many of the things that go on in our local public schools, for example. I would say that that is something to consider.
So do you stand on record as saying that those that contribute to foundations are chipping away at the support for public education?
I think that when you look at the entirety of the decision-making around K-12 funding, you have to take all of that into consideration when you consider my comments. And I don't think that it is unfair to say that there have been cuts and cuts and cuts in many different ways, especially, you know, just talking about the budget this year.
So you are saying that this legislature is cutting and cutting and cutting public education? Is that what you just said to me?
I said that the budget that was considered from House K-12 to the Appropriations Committee was cut.
The $300 million increase was a cut.
That I didn't say that.
Okay,
that is an inflationary adjustment that accounts for increasing expenditures, right?
It is.
So that I think is fair and appropriate to consider, just like any other public service in the state. It's the costs of doing all those things have gone up. The costs of taking care of your employees, the costs of all the things that we do. So that is, that's appropriate to consider that inflationary adjustment within the statute.
Thank you both for a very interesting conversation. And you hit on something that I think sometimes can be frustrating for people in the building, and it's not related to you, but in general, we will increase something, reduce the increase, and it will be reported in the press as a cut. So I think that's a little bit part of the conversation that the two of you were having. We are just about out of time. I want to thank everybody for participating. And Shannon, yes, you may be seated. I'm sorry. And for a great discussion today. Jason has one thing that he needs to clarify. Representative Brown Brantley is hoping to ask Jason for a question. And before we do, try to squeeze those two things in. And Michelle has something to say, and if we don't do it today, we'll start with that tomorrow about the best way to submit testimony. I do want to, there was testimony about the amount of scholarships and tax credits that were used, and it was recently brought to my attention that there is a discrepancy between the Department of Revenue and what one of the SGOs has on their website is what has been done. And so I am trying to look into that and find out and get you guys accurate information. So if somebody said a number that wasn't correct in their testimony, it wasn't ill intent. It's just that there seems to be a discrepancy. Jason and then Representative Brantley.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. The question was asked about the allocation of tax credits if the annual cap on tax credits is exceeded. And this particular legislation actually has a special provision for those instances so that the allocation of the tax credits is determined by the scholarship granting organization in consultation with the secretary. So each organization would look at the credits that could be claimed from the contributions to that organization and would work in consultation with the secretary in terms of allocating the amount of those credits that could be claimed for that year. And that is to be done before the Department of Revenue can issue any of the tax credits or it can award any of the tax credits to the taxpayer. So it's a special provision that doesn't follow our usual process.
Representative Brantley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jason, I just needed a clarification. Can you give me a legal definition of public funds?
Madam Chair, members of the committee, that would depend on the context.
Madam Chair, in like this context, I've heard public funds being used today, and if someone was contributing that was public funds, is that technically called public funds? If I donate to this entity?
Monies contributed to a private organization for charitable purposes by another private individual would not typically be classified as public monies, no.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. Michelle, what would you like to say?
Excuse me, just to clarify about the information uploaded. Initially, I was uploading all the information to the S drive at the time I received it. We were then told, because everybody and their dog in this building has access to it, that now we cannot upload it any sooner than 2 hours before the meeting. And the same rule applies to the website. It will not let you upload. And so one of the reasons why it was late is because we had 159 testimonies, and so that's why it was delayed.
Thank you. I'm not sure that everybody got their questions answered today, and I don't think I remember all of them. I try to circle back with folks on that. So I'm going to encourage you to please reach out to research or reviser or the appropriate person to seek the answers to your question. Thank you all very much for a great time. Is there anything else for the order of the good? We are adjourned.